back into pit lane, and emerging from pit lane, they're going to get a couple of sighting laps at this. Obviously, very, very tricky conditions indeed out there, and including the number 7 there on pole, Veda Pratama. The riders pile out of the pit lane.
So 12 laps ahead of us then. If you are joining us for the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup for the first time, then welcome along. Racing is normally tight, frantic, frenzied. It's definitely worth watching as breakfast is tucked into by those hardy fans. Looks quite nice actually. Very delicious, 20 to 10 local time. As we see fans young and old packing the grandstands here ahead of what is going to be an exciting day of MotoGP action. In terms of Asia Talent Cup history, well, there's plenty names here this weekend that you'll be familiar with. Next year will be the 10th season. Started back in 2014 with Oktober, of course, was on the Moto3 podium last weekend in India. He was our very first Cup champion in 2014, followed the year later by Yumu Sasaki, who joined him on the podium last weekend in India. On pole position today for the Moto2 race is none other than Somkiat Chandra, a man who won in 2016. On the front row for the Moto3 race coming up, Dennis Onju, he won in 2017. And then in more recent years, Tayo Furusato, he won back in 2021. And our reigning Cup champion, Hakim Danish of Malaysia, our first Malaysian champion, is now taking part in the Junior GP. But as you say, Elliot, at the moment, our Cup leader, Veda Pratama, the Indonesian, still a long, long way to go, though. It's pretty hectic from here to the final race of 12 in Qatar in the middle of November. From here, we move on to Indonesia in a couple of weeks' time, then a weekend off. First Indonesian to get that on.
Yeah, certainly will. Few technical difficulties, but we're back up and running, I'm pleased to say. The riders coming in for another sighting lap, so I think they've been given an extra go at this just to try and get a feel for the conditions. But exactly as you say, Jack.
Yeah, in terms of the riders getting a little bit more time, a pit lane open for an extended period of 5 minutes, which allows the riders to get out and, as you can see, roll down pit lane and get a few extra sighting laps in. This almost qualifies as a wet practice for the guys. As a result, the race distance has been reduced, 13 yesterday, 12 this morning, so a slightly shortened race distance just to allow. But as you can see, the rain has stopped falling. There's no spray out there, and right on cue, there's our 2016 Cup champion, Somkiat Chandra. It's not going to dry up, I don't think, in the 12 laps ahead of us, but we are due to get potentially a little bit more rain inside the next hour. That's what the forecast says. But as you can see there, the spray is very, very limited. Certainly, there'll be some Moto3 riders watching this quite attentively just to see what conditions are going to be like for their race coming up in around an hour and a half's time.
Yeah, so the riders then get a feel for these conditions so far. Several weather apps saying different things, so it's always hard to tell in this part of the world, as the number 9 of Takahira, of course, crashed on his opening sighting lap down at turn 3, rolls back into pit lane. So hopefully for the number 9's sake, of course, this is his home race in Japan, so hopefully he can get his bike fixed. It looks a little bit damaged on the right hand side there, doesn't it? I think the brake protector lever is hanging off. Doesn't look too damaged overall. Main thing is he's okay, of course, but yeah, some panic stations then will set in ahead of the start of the race.
Takahira, of course. Not only is he starting from the middle of the third row, Elliot, he's the man second in the Cup standings at the moment. He took the opening victory of the season in Malaysia in conditions not too dissimilar to these. It was a little bit dry. They were out on full slicks rather than the wet tyres we see now, but there were certainly some damp patches out there. Followed that up with a second place, meaning that he was joined to the top of the standings coming into this round 2 of the 2023 Asia Talent Cup. Yesterday didn't go to plan for him though. 6 is not what he would have been hoping as he looked to try and back up that sensational start to the season, and now things have just got worse for him on home soil as well. This is going to be a huge blow to the young man from Japan. As you can see, frantic work immediately going on to that number 9 machine. The clock is ticking He is A-OK, which is obviously the most important thing, but right now his focus is on trying to at least be able to take up a place on the back of the grid. As you can see, the red flag was out there, so pit lane has been closed. If he can get his way down to the bottom of pit lane, by the time these guys start the warm-up lap, he won't be able to take his place on 8th on the grid. He'll have to start 20th and dead last, but that is a whole lot better than having to start from pit lane or not starting at all.
Yeah, absolutely. 15-point split. Veda Pratama, yesterday's winner, and the race 2 Malaysian winner from Takahira in second place in the championship. Zen Mitani is a close third, 3 points adrift of Takahira, but early drama then in the early title chase, of course. Pratama winning 2 races out of 3 so far. He's the rider, that everyone is chasing so far early doors in this championship, and for Takahira's sake, of course, on home soil. I spoke to the podium finishers yesterday, a couple of them from Japan, of course. Were really, really excited to be racing alongside their heroes. A really exciting stretch of races coming up for the Asia Talent Cup as they follow the Grand Prix paddock to Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, and then the final round in a few weeks over at the Lusail International Circuit in Qatar. Also, for Takahira, obviously he's only had a couple of corners in these conditions. The other riders have got 3 laps at it, so even if he does start from the back of the grid, his confidence will be pretty low, Jack, and he's not going to be picking his way through the field. You expect a fast rate of knots. So yeah, early drama then. Here's your starting grids. Odaki on pole from Ezawa and Mitani, and Ogiwara leading up row 4. 4 Japanese riders in the top 4. Hafiy in P5, Pratama P6, rounding out your second row of the grids. Further down, Phuettisan, Nikolis and Wanmoon on row 4, with Darwisy, Okunaki the wildcard, and Meilandri. Putra, Rasyadan and Russo make up row 6. Row 7, and at the back of the grid is Gading and Putra from Malaysia. So as we say, Takahira looks like he should be starting from the back of a grid. Fingers crossed that will be the best case scenario, because if he has to start from pit lane, doesn't get out in time before the red flag is shown at the end of pit lane, he will have to start from pit lane, and that is pretty much race over from the get-go.
High hopes for this man then. Amon Odaki starting from pole position. As you can see, just the one victory to his name. That came at Qatar last year. Can he kick off his 2023 Cup campaign now with victory from pole position on home soil as well? Now we're doing the world of good. But he's got some compatriots joining him on the front row of the grid that would like to spoil the party. Shinya Ezawa missed the opening round of the season due to Red Bull Rookies Cup commitments. He finished runner-up in 2022, so there are a lot of people expecting him to come out this year swinging and be the man to beat. It didn't go to plan yesterday for the Japanese rider, only managing 5th. And then on the outside of the front row of the grid, Zen Mitani, 3 straight podiums to kick off 2023, but yet to taste victory. And keep your eye on the man that has so far dominated proceedings in 2023, Veda Pratama, the Indonesian, the man that leads the standings, second at the opening race in Malaysia, and then followed it up with back-to-back victories, meaning ahead of this one, he's 15 points clear of this man, Riichi Takahira, who, it looks like...
For all standings, that was Marianos Nikolis, the 16-year-old Australian, taking his double long lap penalty. He would end up inside the points. But it was all about the battle at the front. Pratama picking his way through the pack nicely after keeping his powder dry in the opening exchanges. That was his eventual race-winning move. And this is where it all came down to. Pratama versus Odaki at turn 11. Drama unfolding. Thankfully, we can report Odaki walked away from the incident. Pratama well on his way to 40-point lead in the championship standings. A double race victory for the number 7 Indonesian. And next up is his home round in Indonesia alongside the Grand Prix paddock once more. Double victory for Pratama here in Japan. We will see you for more in a couple of weeks' time.